Unfiltered with Bran Otieno and Dongo Gashane.
Hello there and welcome to Unfiltered, the show where we strip away the noise and dive straight into the issues that matter. I am your host, Ndongo Gashane, and today I have a guest host.
I think I'm always happy to be invited to be the guest host of the Unfiltered.
Yes.
Say where we do what?
Strip away the noise.
And
dive straight into the issues.
it is just Unfiltered.
Kabisa.
Of course, my name is Daniel Karaoke, a political affairs reporter with KTN and the Standard at Large. And I'm glad also to be invited to this show to co-host you, Dongo Gashane. So first and foremost, to give thanks to Brian Otieno for allowing me the space to do
welcome.
this. Yeah. So of course, today we are going to be discussing about matters to do with polls and democracy, coming at the backdrop of what we've seen happening in our in the neighboring country, that's Tanzania, where it has raised a lot of issues. And first and foremost, before even we talk of the of the topic, we have our guest today. Let's get to introduce him. Today we have the Secretary General of Jubilee Party, and also a former member of parliament. That's Jeremiah Kioni. Thank you very much. And former running mate to Musalia Mudavadi in the 2013 elections. 2013. Yeah, welcome to the Unfiltered.
Asante sana. I can see I already dived in. I'm happy to be part of this. And we see what we can be able to offer without filtering.
Yes. Now, talking about democracy, polls and democracy, our neighboring country, that's Tanzania, went into the polls on the 29th of October. And no one actually knows what was happening between 29th and when the president for Tanzania, Samia Suluhu, was declared the winner. What's your take about what happened in Tanzania during the elections?
Perhaps even before Tanzania, it might be useful to just reflect on what has happened across the whole continent.
Yes.
Not in a manner of detail or in order, but what I can recall is that, we fought for independence. In the 60s, there was a question of getting the Mzungus out of our way.
Yes.
That may have gotten some countries into the 70s, maybe South Africa and others much later. And then there was the immediate fighting for space, multi-party democracy, like we started as a multi-party democracy, only for the party KANU to kill the space, and it became a one-party system, and all the rest is history. But we went through those phases as Africans. But crucially is during the 90s, some of us like Kenya may have started it a little earlier in the 80s. But during the 90s, we now started clamoring for multi-party democracy.
Right.
In a very serious manner, where many people died. And constitutions were amended, including the one for Kenya. Countries took on multi-party democracy, many of them again, including Kenya. And we now come to the phase of 2010, 2022, all the way to where we are today. And we can actually see, again, like we have gone backwards, where we have gone to coups, Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Ivory Coast. They all have had the coups, all military takeovers, which is really an erosion of the democratic space that have been fought for there before. But when you go through this history, you see some countries may have, gone without having gone through the process. It's like you went beyond one step, or you missed a step. I'm not sure of my being aware of Tanzanians having gone through what we went through as a country to get ourselves to a multi-party democracy.
That's in 1992.
I don't think they went through the very, very vicious kind of very bad, and people were killed. Many demonstrations were very vicious demonstrations, and were really hit hard by the KANU government then. But I don't remember that Tanzania having gone through that. And it's to me, it's like people who had gotten to a place without having experienced what it costed us to get there. But that doesn't qualify, or that just does not justify what we saw happening in Tanzania the other day. But it is only useful for us to see what happens when we lose that democracy. And you can actually see in Africa, you can literally say our region seems to be following very closely to what has happened in West Africa.
Right.
In eroding the democratic space that we have had. And it starts slowly, very slowly. I think we saw this with Uganda. Uganda, they did away with the term limit for the president. I think Rwanda also did the same. Cameroon also may have done similar things. We may have ignored it, but Tanzanians may not have eliminated the 2-term limit or whatever term limit they have. But Mama seems to have learned a couple of lessons from
the others.
from others, and they are not good lessons, because we all thought that it's going to be very competitive, but we never thought that we will get somebody being declared a winner in Tanzania, knowing how hard Akina Nyerere had fought for all these things.
Yes.
Without even having a campaign, not a campaign, without having a competitor. Competitors are put in, you don't know what is happening, internet is switched off.
She had approximately 16 competitors.
And you can manufacture them, because what you only need to do is to remove the serious competitors and manufacture others.
But they will be called candidates.
They will be called candidates.
Right.
But you see, all that comes because institutions in countries have been compromised over time. And we saw that in West Africa. Now it is with us here. This country called Kenya has had its fair share of that, and we hope we can. I am not sure that we are improving. I think we are also shrinking our space. But it comes with compromised media, all intimidated media. Compromised institutions, or leader institutions that have been intimidated in the name of judiciary or electoral commission and other oversight commissions. But it also comes like in some cases where, in our case, for example, we fought very hard for this multi-party democracy and our 2010 constitution. But we also had people who opposed it, and opposed it very viciously or vigorously, and used a lot of resources. And I think one of the other reasons why we as a country, I know you will come to that, but why I think Kenya is also suffering a lot because of that shrinking space, is because some of the people who are now in charge of us had said no to this multi-party democracy, this constitution that we have in place. They did not really agree with the freedom of the media, freedom of the institutions that are in place, the judiciary, the kind of space that we were giving to the judiciary. So a lot of things have played into shrinking this space within Africa. And countries looks like they wanted to try them out one after the other. The last one we had is Tanzania, unfortunately.
So what you are saying is that Tanzania may need a new constitution, or maybe might need to change some of the things, like having a multi-party democracy.
Anything they are taken for granted and banked on the goodwill of their founding fathers in the name of Nyerere. Even Akina Kikwete may have just been good leaders. They must look at it again and make sure that it's provided for within their statutes, within their constitution. But that's not enough, because in our country, I don't think you can get a more progressive constitution than ours, but we are still seeing erosion of all the gains that we had over time. So it's a combination of all these things. One, of course, you need good laws and good constitutions, but you also need institutions that are properly managed, institutions that are also very well shielded from interference. I don't know how much more you can do knowing what we have done in this country. But on top of everything else, I think there is the human, the person himself, this person who has been given the responsibility to run the affairs of others on behalf. Because we have seen some very leaders who performed very well under the same document, and yet you get others who come and really just learn havoc over you.
Going back to the issue of Tanzania, we also heard what President Suluhu said during when she was being sworn to office. She actually said that Tanzanian people are peace-loving, but it is just elements of some foreigners
actually.
who were actually disrupting their peace. And in that, the context was interpreted to mean Kenyans.
Yes.
And then we have our Deputy President, Kithure Kindiki, going there to represent President William Ruto, who is actually the head of the EAC, the chairperson of this, but he never went, he just sent his deputy. What do you take of this, given that we are neighbors and we are also expected to suffer if the country continues to suffer?
I think we have to be careful. I think you need to look at how did Magufuli come into power. Magufuli came into power because what I gathered then was because the person Tanzanians wanted was not the favorite for Kikwete.
Mm-hmm.
The person Kikwete wanted,
Kikwete in this case is a former president.
the former president
Right.
of Tanzania. The person Kikwete wanted is not the person the Tanzanians wanted.
Wanted, yes.
So they also rejected Kikwete's choice.
Aha.
So Magufuli akapita katikati, ile yetu
Ile ya 2007.
2007.
Yes.
So he passes katikati and then picks the running meters.
Mama Samia Suluhu, yes.
Then again, Magufuli decides to leave before his term is over and leaves Tanzanians in the hands of Mama Suluhu.
Samia Suluhu, yes.
Which again, even before I answer the question you have asked, what makes me get worried about our deputies. Because you see, Tanzanians are being managed by a deputy whom they had not even had quite a say in the first instance. Maybe that's why also Kindiki may have gone to run a few things. But then, so that's an issue we need to address ourselves. Look at this country. We had Moi, who decided to run us without a deputy. Then we decided to put it in the constitution that you can never again run for the presidency without a known deputy running in it. Ours was impeached. And William Ruto picks his own choice. So because Kindiki is his own choice, God forbid, if Kindiki was then to come and run the affairs of this country, he will have come through all sorts of door, either through back door, through the window, from the roof, through the ceiling or something. So it's not always the case that things will work out as provided for in our documents. But in the case of now Kindiki having gone to Tanzania, and again, I don't know whether it was design or otherwise, he actually said, I'm here to represent William. He wasn't there to represent on behalf of Kenyans. He was there to represent William Ruto. I am sure that William was embarrassed to go to preside over or to witness that Chaboric thing. It wasn't fitting for Kindiki to also go, in my opinion, because those elections and what the Tanzanians are going through, there's nothing to celebrate about. Again, it's always good to go with the feelings of your people. Kenyans are not happy with what is happening in Tanzania.
Right.
Kenyans are not happy with the fact that Mama Suluhu had thought that we are the source of trouble in her country. And all these things, you cannot behave like you are not a representative of the people. This accountability business, you need to be accountable to the people and you need to move along with them, because that's a kind of an oversight. And I believe that you remember what happened when the former Prime Minister passed on, and people are being led, those who came to condole with us at Nyayo Stadium. Whenever a name would be led from Tanzania, Kenyans will be saying, hawa kidogo ni kama tuko pamoja.
Like
and it is important to address that issue because Tanzanians are our neighbors.
Yes.
And we have our own who go and do many things in that country, and we have Tanzania in this country. The leadership of these two countries needs to address that issue, but it's been now made worse by those symbolic elections that happened.
And that brings me to the issue about the East African community, because you've said that maybe President William Ruto felt a bit ashamed to go and witness the swearing in of Samia Suluhu as the president. And the South African side of the development community, that's SADC, has actually said wanatilia shaka the elections in Tanzania. And then here is EAC presidents congratulating the
person who has
president.
sacrificed his own.
And then here is again President William Ruto not going for the same function after congratulating. And Kenyans say this is not our stand. This is the president's stand. If you could see on the social media handles. So where does it leave the EAC in terms of matters democracy?
You see, William Ruto is not a stranger to the happenings in Tanzania. We saw it coming. We saw Akina Boniface Mwangi and others being mistreated within the boundaries of Tanzania. Not a word from the state. There was no condemnation that came from the head of state. He never stood. He was not available on behalf of our people or on behalf of Kenyans. Number one. Number two, when the opposition leaders were being persecuted, thrown into prisons with made-up cases, we saw our lawyers led by Martha Karua go to help them offer legal services. Again, they were mistreated at the border. They were actually literally almost deported. Mother may not have suffered that, but we saw, I think she did.
Yes.
They were actually brought back into the country. We never heard a word from
the
William.
president.
Look at Uganda also. BCJ was treated the same way when he was in this country. Thrown back into Uganda and again taken to, literally hijacked in the night. So it is not something that we can say that it worried William. He was only embarrassed to go and tell Suruhu, this is the way to go, because you can actually see them preparing the ground for those kind of behavior. I fear for the Ugandans, given how we treated BCG and what we saw. It's like there is now a team of dictators that have formed within the East African region.
Because we are even missing some activists.
Yes,
who
even
are
our
in
own
Uganda.
Yes. We can still not account for them. And again, the government has not said anything. I mean, this is a very worrying trend, and it calls upon the citizens of the East African region to really come together and stop this erosion of these rights, liberties, and no freedoms, because the signs are not good. Knowing that we are again going to have elections in another 20 months in this country, we have every reason to be a little concerned. Not a little concerned, very concerned, but we should not wait. We should start doing the things we should do. And I believe that in a short while we should be able to start them.
But you say, well, that we are going to have an election in a couple of months. Tanzania had the years, Uganda is going to have the years maybe early next year. And now the question that we should all be thinking and responding to is about the electoral independence. We have a situation in Tanzania where the National Election Council, whatever they announce as the official results, cannot be contested. Here in our own country, we saw what happened in 2022 general elections, where we saw a divided IEBC, the Cherera 4 and the other one led by Chebukati. What do you think should be done to ensure that we have transparent and credible elections?
When we give ourselves the 2010 Constitution, and I sat in that Parliamentary Select Committee, we sat at Naivasha, 27 of us. The only reason why we had created the Supreme Court then was to deal with presidential elections, petition.
Yes.
It was the most pressing issue. We needed an organ within the judiciary that should deal with the issues of elections in this country and deal with them with a finality. And that's why we had also limited them to a number like 15 days or 30 days or whatever. We had a very tight time frame, 15 days within which they need to do, 30 days within which they must be able to process many things. And it's because of the experience that we had gone through. The thinking then was that we are going to be so thorough with the judges who sit in the Supreme Court, and we'll also be involved in that process, that we expect a fair judgment every time we have a contested election. We have had every time since 2013, we've gone to the Supreme Court and judgments have been issued by the Supreme Court that have been pleasing to others, and others have been unhappy. one way or another, almost what we expect every time a judgment is given. But we were more careful than the Tanzanians because we still gave room for a petition to be filed by whichever party that is aggrieved. But you can actually see how dangerous it is, because Samia, if there was that room available for the Tanzanians, it's likely that Samia Suluhu would not have mismanaged the Tanzanians the way he did. So he had two things, Mutadu, in terms of their legal opportunities or avenues that were open to them. But the other one is, my neighbor here is already with me. Ujaribu kwenda huko utarudishwa hapa. You remember they had even the Kenyans had to go and rescue the opposition leader across the border when he was coming to attend the I think it was the valley of Laila Amolo Odinga.
Yes.
So and was it not for the Kenyans, our security system were not going to allow the opposition leader into our country. Tanzanians are not. Ugandans are also playing ball. When you try and sneak into their country, they will hard you back very quickly. So it is a case that need to concern all of us. And it's unfortunate when citizens of one country look like a up against the other. I must fault the Tanzanians for having thought that we in Kenya are so wild and so uncultured that we keep demonstrating. It is because of that kind of behavior that we have been out in the streets, and we have not been very happy with how we've been treated by our leaders. And we would want the East Africans to be as vigilant as the Tanzanians were, even more vigilant, and even more vigilant than we have been. This country, if William Ruto tries what Samia did, it will be a very tough thing. Our young people are hardened. They are more exposed because the internet has been available. We've gone through these phases. They have gone through the rehearsals with the rider, and I don't think William would want to see the full play come 2027. Ajifunze na yale ame.
And then there is Uganda. What is expected of because when in Uganda
Kaguta is a guka kabisa.
You know, Bobby Wine, he always complained that his hotel, the hotel where he sleeps, get broken into, and then we have the opposition leader, Kizza Besigye, who is in trial. So what is expected?
Ugandans are doing worse than many because they are now already in the hands of a dictator.
So already the president is a dictator. Are you saying the president is already now a dictator?
Total dictator. And I can also add and say I am sure that William is looking at him with admiration because of that level of dictatorship. But we must continue encouraging Bobby Wine, BCJ, and the other young politicians in that country. They need to rise up and say enough is enough. It is not useful to allow even Rwanda also, honestly, to be running a country for that long. Look at Cameroon. My mother is 100 years. You're actually telling me that we can actually offer my mother for the presidential elections come 2027 because
there is no age limit.
Paul is 92. He's 92.
And there is no age limit.
At age 92, you
should be relaxed.
You even struggle to remember your own name, honestly. And then you're here, there running the country. This is really political bad manners. And if nothing happened, Kaguta is heading that way. And the thing is that the way he behaved 2022 in our country, you remember he also came over, even when he could see that things were not the way they should have happened. So they encourage one another into this habit. And that's why I'm saying this region requires the civil movement. You know, we had really some movement back in the 90s and 80s. And this region is like it's calling back for that kind of vigilance. And it's unfortunate because we actually thought that we had made the progress. But how does this come about? It also comes about when you have put people in power. They are running the affairs of your country, maybe through the regular electoral cycles that we have. But when they're in power, the hope that you had in them is all betrayed. So you start wondering, is this also is it also the proper process to go through? And while the leaders could also be feeding on that misgiving on our part, because you start wondering, we do another elections and produce another William Ruto, that also, you can see the Gen Zs in this country are having a problem registering as voters. And when you engage them, it's because they are wondering, this is a system, we are frontiering ourselves to a system that is already not working. How can we get a new one? So it's really some very interesting time, but also very risky time, because you can easily lose your country in this mess.
That's true. And when we talk about Kenya, we saw what happened in June 2024, and of course also 2025 during the demonstrations as the youth tried to call for accountability.
Yes.
Now, recently in Tanzania, we've seen how the situation has been. As much as the president in Tanzania, Samia Suluhu, says it's foreigners. We've seen what happened in DRC. Congo recently, where human rights issues were raising concerns, and in fact they had to hold a meeting to try and bring to a close the crisis. And also Uganda, you've talked of it. Now the situation in Kenya about in the East African region about human rights seems to be taking center stage in all the countries, and Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda being at the center of all this discussion.
When these gains are eroded, the consequences are that human rights also gets affected. We lose our freedoms, civil liberties are also lost. We end up with persecutions across. You see people dying, like the kind of death that we have seen in Tanzania out of the protest and the brutality that comes with the police officers. There is so much that you suffer from when you allow that space to be lost again to the hearts of those in power and who have no respect for the constitution or whatever it is that we had fought for. But this also comes as a result of having people in power who cannot deliver on the promises that they made. One. Two, people who get into power but have no capacity to deliver. Lives are made worse by their continued stay in power. Number three, wanton corruption, runaway corruption, wastage of public resources, including like the sale of public assets like we are seeing in this country. So while we may have voted for people 2022, and those who won are in power, those who did not win say it's our sour, we'll wait for another 5 years. Even those who voted for those in power get so frustrated that the next electoral cycle is not just affected by institutions that are not stable, institutions that are not accountable, but also by the lack of faith in what we produce after we've gone through an electoral system. And this is a combination of things. So even the voters themselves, we who vote in leaders, have a responsibility to ensure that the people you are bringing on board also are not people. It's not very easy, given what we have seen, to know who is this who can do X, Y, Z, and who cannot do. But there are telltale signs that you can see. If you look at the history of an individual, and you can see how he used to behave when he was not in power. He's likely to be worse when he gets in power. I mean, I am not sure that I know the history of Samia Suluhu. She looks like he's just a nice Muslim lady. But it looks like behind her is a very little individual. But in cases like in case of Uganda, fine, they needed an army general to get them out of the jungle. But the army general who got them out of the jungle, again, once allowed to overstay, makes the whole country look like a jungle. In our country also, you have history of those who are in power They have been in civil service. They have read us. They have been involved in campaigns in the past. And we'll have to blame ourselves if we get into the situations like we are in Tanzania. Every sign was written there of the individuals that we are putting in power. So I'm actually calling on Africans, Kenyans, when we are next doing our campaigns, and especially when we are voting, look at the track record of these individuals. Do not frontier yourself to a person who may have butchered you before he came to power, because he'll butcher you more when he gets all the tools, instruments of power with him.
How that you have decided we talk about the campaign and the elections. We get local kidogo.
No, but you see, a country like in Kenya.
By the way, I should say, it is for that reason that every time there is a coup, a military takeover, the international community seems to insist that, fine, you've taken over, but can you hand over power to the civilians within a given time?
Yes.
Because it's not easy for a person who has been trained in the affairs of the military, for him to transform himself and become a civil. You know, a civilian, a person who can manage the affairs of a country without allowing the military training to come into play. I believe when all those who have overstayed, even when they started off well, will end up being very dangerous at the end. Yes.
Yeah, but we had a situation in Kenya, and we heard what the late Raila said, that the reason for him to get into broad-based coalition was because the country was headed to a military way, and if he said if military would have taken over the leadership of this country, then the country would have the civilians will never have occupied those positions again. It's
something that we can debate for quite a while. I was seated in one of the, not once, maybe once, 2-3 times, and I can confirm here that it is true that the late former Prime Minister, or the late Prime Minister, did ask us when we were seated as part of the principles of Azimio, and ask ourselves, this country looks like it can easily collapse. Those in power, William and his team, don't seem to be in control of anything. And if we continue pushing this way, they are likely to buckle. What measures do we have in place to ensure that the country we don't lose the country? Are we in talks with any other group outside or within that will help us stabilize the country once we achieve what we wanted to achieve? That discussion took place, and as to what we needed to do, we quite did not agree. Baba decided that the better thing would be to engage and move on. To engage the government. The broad-based government. But you remember there were even before then, there were some 2 other attempts to engage. There was a parliamentary committee that had been set, bipartisan parliamentary committee, that couldn't go on because of the dishonesty level of those in power. We then got into the NADICO, which produced a report, and again they took the report with it for almost a year without doing anything. And then the Gen Zs came in, and they were very hard. They were even harder on the system than those within Azimio. So we can sit back and say we were not happy with what Raila did. I personally was not happy with what Raila did. But what would have you recommended? But I can also tell you that without doubt, the fact that this William team was looking completely inept, and even today they are very inept.
Even with the
Raila, now with the passing of on
with the professionals, wataalamu as they were called,
wataalamu na stima bado. Sasa kwanza wataalamu wameenda na stima itakatwa every karibu kila siku kuanzia saa 11 mpaka saa 4.
You talked about road shedding. What was it called?
Road shedding and sharing their places.
Unasema hata wataalamu hawajasaidia serikali.
Wataalamu wameleta utaalamu wa ajabu ambao
what would you have recommended? Because I hear many people say
what I would have recommended is dialoguing with all parties on board. With all parties on board. Wishing away our feelings of the 2024 finance bill and allowing it to be brought back through the back door, and you could see Chungwa bragging about it. We even introduced the whole act through other,
Avenues.
That's that's the kind of false confidence that was given to William. And then the other danger that happened is that this really potential dictatorial team were given enough time to prepare themselves to mess us come 2027. I would rather we have continued having them on their toes, so that when that opportunity comes, when we can transit from them into another better system, it's not with the kind of struggle that is likely to happen come 2027. We were not far. We were not far from it. It was not going to be because they were saying there are no avenues in our constitution. Our constitution has avenues to exit any government and how to replace it. We, of course, let down by the institution of parliament. And when we were doing our 2010 constitution, which is also one of the reasons why people end up with a coup, is because when the institution of parliament stops representing people, people feel frustrated, and the army steps in, because now it has the backing of the populace. If we had parliament with us, either during the Azimio demonstrations or during the Gen Z demonstrations, we will not be where we are. Our failure to also appreciate the kind of struggle that we are in also allowed people to quickly take on slogans like one term. And one term means that it's like they are definite after one term, they will be able to remove the system in power. And I believe that we should be able to remove the system in power. But by the mere fact that we said one term, those in office said, hurrah, we'll be given a full term. What were we looking for when we were campaigning in 2022?
It's a full term.
These other baggers in the name of Azimio and Gen Z wanted to stop us midway. Now we have another team here that has given us a full term. So that's when now we are now competing on one term, two term, one term, two term, which is very dangerous because we've given Ruto time to prepare to disorganize us come 2027. I believe that we should have continued with the clamor for them to go, because then many of the things that we are suffering from would not have given them the comfort of mismanaging us through the corruption, the mismanagement of the education sector, the health sector, and again, entrenching themselves into the security agencies, which also makes it a little difficult for you to do your thing come 2027. So a little bit of also opposition losing focus. It's there. And give it to Raila. He's not a person who would have lost focus. He knew he left us, and I can tell you he understood opposition politics clearly.
Right. So you're saying that the opposition and the parties were left out maybe in terms of negotiations and what have you. Is it the reason maybe Jubilee has gone to the drawing board and are now
I can tell you, while we belong to the opposition and we are squared there, we are the only party that has committed itself in writing to the united opposition or any opposition unity that is being sought.
Oh, really?
And we have the only party. I want others to produce letters. And now we have even a person whom we have said any table that is being sat in where
the
people
united
are
opposition,
invite Fred Okego Matiang'i to sit there. But that's not enough. If the parties don't go back and organize themselves to deliver a different presidency or an alternative government, if they don't win the confidence of Kenyans and Kenyans rally behind that institution, and the party must have structure that goes to every corner of this country. If we rely on fragmented units, this is a field day for William. And that is why we at Jubilee are part of all this, but we must make sure that we have a party, a good national party, that somebody in Kodero will say, yes, I support what they are saying in Jubilee, and I am going to ensure that votes for Fred Matiang'i here are protected. It is only then that you can talk about removing a regime. But sitting around and not talking about IEBC, which is already, you can tell that the secretariat that mismanaged us 2022 and even 2017 is still the one that we are relying upon to manage us 2027, and we are saying nothing about it, we will be taking Kenyans for a ride. And I'm not bad-mouthing any group, but I'm calling upon them also to let's get out of our comfort zone. We don't need to do this. We need to sit back and have a machinery that can deliver a different presidency come 2027. And it is what we are doing in Jubilee. We were late a little because we were in the courts, but every day that is left for us, it will be towards that.
But Mwajimwa, you held the National Executive Council the other day, and indeed it's true that you committed that Fred Matiang'i, the former Interior Cabinet Secretary, will be the one to represent the Jubilee in the United Opposition. But the United Opposition leaders, led by former Vice President NY Parida Kalonzo Musyoka and former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, have been holding meetings. And Juzi, they had a meeting at the SKM Command Center. But neither you and the Deputy Party Leader, Fred Matiang'i, was available. In fact, there are photos circulating online that he was having some mandizi matoke somewhere in a closed hotel. Yeah. When you talk about that you are committed to the United Opposition, we have seen these leaders holding a series of meetings without the presence of Matiang'i. Is just writing and committing in paper enough to show that you are indeed committed to the United Opposition?
When we are fully aware of any meeting that takes place, we will always be there. Either Matiang'i himself or a person he can pick to deputize him or to hold, believe. Again, when the agenda is one on looking for unity and it is meant to deal with the issues of United Opposition, again, we will always be there. I am not sure that the last meeting was informed by that kind of an agenda. And number two is that other than ourselves as Jubilee and our presidential candidate, Fred Matiang'i, NAC Kenya was also not there. I did not see Muturi there. I did not see quite a number of people who are also not seated at that forum. So why they would just pick on us and want to say that we skip the meeting, it is what the United Opposition must also address. There is need for goodwill between or among those seated there. And it's also not useful for those, if we are seated here and instead of offering my apology, you start trying to depict me with an image and characterize me. When you show somebody with matoke, you're trying to characterize that person in the negative.
Yes.
So, and that is why parties, my position is that that unit is as strong as the individual political parties. And while I don't think that is useful at all, we as Jubilee are committed to that process. I wasn't aware of the meeting that it was happening there.
But look at this. Now, the Secretary General of a Jubilee Party.
Yes, I wasn't aware.
Not aware of the United meeting. So that means you were never invited.
We would want to get aware of that. It's important that's why we are saying we need to, everything needs to be formalized, and it's good to appreciate that also the United Opposition is also in its formative stages. We are aware that the convener is Mother and Karonzo. That's what I was told. Those are the conveners. That's why we addressed our letters to them. But it is also important for the meetings to be made public, so that it's not a contested position. Did you invite? Did you not invite? It's good for the meeting because United Opposition belongs to the public. All we in the opposition are accountable to the public. So it is good that these meetings are also made known to the public, so that then if you don't attend, I do not sit around and say I was not invited. That kind of thing, or I was not aware, or whatever. That's very important. Transparency, so that even when we arrive at decisions, it's also decisions that are also easy to consume as members of the public. But we must commend that team. They have done wonders in the most difficult times. So I'm not here to try and say that they are not performing. No, but I would want to encourage that each one of us, all these parties, hold each other. But as they hold each other, it is also important to know that we will be as strong as the sum total of the strength of these individual parties. We in Jubilee are committed to ensure that we are back to our usual position of the 2017 build up to 2022 and 2023. Then we will be able to offer useful contribution when we come to that table.
Right, and I want to agree with you on maybe ensuring that the party is strong. But again, if Jubilee is being left out when the planning is going on and by other parties in the united opposition, and feels like the other parties are quote unquote forgetting another party, and it's like they're not factoring in Jubilee in their meetings. Don't you feel like the united opposition could be having other affairs in matters to do with the Jubilee? Maybe they are considering like Jubilee is yet to get into the united opposition as we want. Or is there a conflict maybe?
Now, by the way, why you keep sitting in boardrooms and in meetings is so that you try and narrow the areas of conflict or the areas of disagreement. There is no way you expect the parties that are coming together to form a coalition not to have areas of disagreements. Remember Azimio, it took the former head of state, Uhuru Kenyatta, until April of 2022 to hammer an agreement between the parties that formed Azimio, which was too late in the day. It actually compromised the ability of Azimio to prepare for the elections 2022 because we had only a 6-month window. We ended up without agents all over. So there are going to be conflicts. There are going to be disagreements. It's really something that's why people need to sit in boardrooms where others are not there because it's making of a sausage, but also in allowing the public into the space to the extent possible so that it's not said that it's exclusive. I am personally not complaining as a SG of Jubilee. We belong there. When the callers will be there, we will make our contributions. It is not also an exclusive club. We have seen very many other people going to those meetings when they have been invited. You see Wiper with members of parliament there. You see others. So even us, now that we are out of the woods, we have had our NEC, we have had our NDC, we have our institutions functioning. When it is called, we'll also go there in numbers so that we can offer the contributions that we can also be useful at that table.
Wonderful. But the elephant in the room, Hesh, is about...
Don't bring a big one.
the praise of Jubilee and the DCP when it comes to the Mount Kenya region politics. We have heard former Deputy President say that his party is the regional party. And he has actually put a target of about 80 or so MPs.
Basically, it's all like all the MPs. Clearly, it's like all the MPs from Mount Kenya.
And he actually said that all those other parties you shall see around are just wheelbarrows. He actually said red parties are red wheelbarrows.
He has all colors for wheelbarrows.
He's actually saying that President William Ruto has come with another wheelbarrow that is red in color.
In his other eye, he must have been an artist. All these color schemes.
So now we have Jubilee. Of course, we know that even if Jubilee is a national party, it has its stronghold and footing in Mount Kenya region. Don't you think issues such as cannibalism and the infighting within the opposition parties are now recipe for a chaos and also division that may actually work towards President William Ruto?
No. One is that I welcome the formation of DCP. It is a very useful thing for the country, for the political space that is there. I can tell you also, even within Jubilee, it is a very welcome development for the reason that as you grow as a party, there are people who feel like they need to manage the political affairs, the political environment, the political space differently. And when another party is formed in the name of DCP, PLP, DP, that gives people a variety. You have a choice, a wide choice from a bouquet. You can pick one of them and decide to use it. So it's a good thing that happens. The other thing that is also useful is that when you have competition in an area, it's a good thing also. When you have competition across the country, it's a good thing. If you want to win the presidency of an area, you want close to 100% turnout. When you have more than one party, the turnout is better. So I am happy to deal with the competition that comes with the DCP, because then it means that if you are in agreement in terms of who becomes your presidential candidate, DCP followers will come out and vote and eventually vote for your presidential candidate. Yeah. Jubilee followers will come out and vote and eventually vote out for your presidential candidate. The premise upon which perhaps they started introducing DCP is the one that was wrong. When you say that there is only going to be one party in this region, everybody must belong to this party. The other place where pia kwenda tengeneza another party in your region. That's how we ended up with coups in West Africa. That's how we have ended up with the difficulties in Tanzania. And as Kenyans, we must resist that trend, because it is part of the erosion of the gains that we have made as a country and as a region. It is what is also in Tanzania, in Uganda. Because that one party mentality produces dictatorship. It reduces the space where you can exercise your rights. Yeah. And that's why I would encourage those in DCP to just compete without saying this is the only party. Because again, when you are seated at the same table, you also have Mother coming from the same region, you have Muturi coming from the same region, and then you come and say this is the only party in this area. It's like you really are telling us
ignoring the others.
Out in, you know, mlango iko pale, out ni nje. You know, that kind of thing. So we need to be awake in some of those realities, and I believe that, and I hope, if it's not the case, that the founders of DCP have now grown into that space of agreeing to have competition. Another primitive thing, and I say it's a primitive thing, which we used to have during KANU. You remember, this cost people death. This is a KANU zone. If you belong to something else, you come,
zoning and
people are killed.
Right.
That's zoning business. So you can't come and say this is a ODM zone.
Right.
This is a Jubilee zone. That's why I keep saying Jubilee is a national party. And I thank God that there is nowhere in this country we can be able to go to any part of this country and say Jubilee, because we never also projected ourselves as a regional thing. We have been available. We have had members of parliament from every. If you go to the old 8 regions, we have had members of parliament from all those regions throughout the 10-year period with when Jubilee has been in power.
Nice. But are we going to see...
Look at this also as the only party that is having a presidential candidate who does not necessarily have to own the party. You know, everybody else is saying, I'm the owner of this, I'm the presidential candidate.
Everyone has his party.
That's also not a good thing. And that is not what was intended in our constitution. When you say that these political parties must be institutionalized, is that so that institution should produce a leader. It is not the leader to produce an institution.
Right.
The institution must produce a leader, and that leader must be able to deliver to the people. Because the party is supposed to deliver to the people, not to deliver to the leaders. When you say hii ni chama yangu hii na uingilie hii mlango ama utokee hii na hapa ni kwangu muzikuje,
inakuwa shida. I know time is not on our side. Time imekimbia sana, but maybe as we wrap up, what are we looking forward to? Fred Matiang'i, the presidential candidate, Jubilee, are we going to see changes? Uko mbele?
For Jubilee, we have no other application, and I think that die is cast. Our presidential candidate for Jubilee is Fred Matiang'i. That's why we have said, Fred Matiang'i, on behalf of Jubilee, go sit with others. When you are not there,
na wakimwambia wewe haijatosha mboga bado tu
lakini lazima iwe si wewe unasema. Kwa sababu hata si wewe ulikuwa uchague, ni Wakenya. Wakenya wenyewe ndio wanatakana waseme hujatosha boga ama umetosha boga. And remember, these candidates, this Matiang'i is not running against Rigiji.
Yes.
Rigiji is not running against Kalonzo.
Yes.
Kalonzo is not running against Mother. We must be able to say Matiang'i versus Ruto, Rigiji versus Ruto, Kalonzo versus Ruto, Mother versus Ruto. Then look at it. Where is it that we have better chances of winning?
Right.
If it is with you, then others should agree to come there. 1, 2, I think also they need to quickly come up with scientific methods of how to arrive at this candidate.
Right.
And I believe one of the tested methods also is the one of debates. Come, let's have these debates. It's now time for the media houses to start organizing these debates, and we see who will skip. Kuja, wewe William Ruto, you are the Minister for Education when it was called the Higher Education. Wewe Matiang'i, you are the CS Education when we were moving from this to CBS and you brought the aerobuses. Come and tell us what you did in education. Wacha wa Kenya waamue. Kalonzo, you are also a Minister for Education.
Right.
Kuja. Those things are the things that will stop us going the Samia way.
I think
because hata wewe mwenyewe unaanza kutafuta njia ya kwenda nyumbani kwa sababu hata wewe umeona
vitu umesema haipelekani.
Yeah, you saw Biden.
Gashari, I think time is not on our side.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Jeremiah Kioni for coming, and we hope that whenever we call you in future you're going to come and have a good and candid interview.
Hata Matiang'i italeta.
Tunamsubiri.
So Dan.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. I also, Gashane, for giving me this opportunity also to be part and parcel of the discussion. And I hope also to be back again. Yes. Thank you very much.
Until last day, my name is Ndongo Gachane.
Unfiltered with Bran Otieno and Ndongo Gashane.